Hello, everybody watching, and welcome to my historical profile on the original Half-Life computer game and its success and innovation in storytelling. Released nearly 25 years ago, it still remains one of the most influential video games that the industry has produced. In this presentation, I will explain what made Half-Life so special and how it changed the way we tell stories in video games. Released in 1998 by Valve Software, Half-Life is a first-person narrative-driven shooter. The player inhabits the body of Dr. Gordon Freeman, a scientist employed at the Black Mesa Research Facility. The game begins as a regular day on the job for Dr. Freeman until an experiment goes haywire and the facility is invaded by hostile alien creatures. Gordon must then fight his way through the research facility and uncover the mysteries of what went wrong and how to contain it. Half-Life fits into the context of our class as it pioneered what it meant to tell a story in an interactive game at the time of its release in the late 90s, and subsequent games picked up what the geniuses at Valve had laid down. What made Half-Life so unique was the way it conveyed its story to the player. Most narrative-focused games prior to Half-Life utilized cutscenes and scripted events to convey plot points and story. The developers of Half-Life used a different technique called an embedded narrative, in which the story unfolds in real time as the player is progressing through the game. For example, instead of a cutscene of the science experiment going haywire, the player actually has to manipulate the environment to cause the experiment to fail, and experiences it firsthand while still in control of Gordon. The consequences of the player's actions are revealed throughout the environments of the levels and the emotions and reactions of the NPCs. While remaining thematic and ultimately a fixed sequence of events, as Juul writes in the Games Telling Stories article, Half-Life successfully immerses the player, making them feel as though they're a part of the story instead of just watching it. Embedded narratives have been common practice in games since the launch of Half-Life, with games like The Last of Us, the BioShock series, and several others utilizing the same method to great success. Besides its innovation in storytelling in video games, Half-Life was also unique in its use of player agency. Robert Grosso writes for TechRaptor that player agency means giving the player the ability to make meaningful decisions about their actions while participating in a game. In regards to Half-Life, the player is given a great deal of options with how they interact with their environment, the pace of the story, and how they deal with enemies. Players aren't required to explore each air duct, bathroom, or storage closet in Black Mesa, but they are rewarded for doing so with item pickups, Easter eggs, and lore building. The structure of Half-Life does not revolve around levels, rather the game is broken up into chapters which are self-paced and progression is not forced. The huge variety in enemies invading Black Mesa, combined with the diverse arsenal Gordon finds along his route, make for a symphony of bullets, rockets, grenades, and Ghostbuster-esque beam weapons. Williams writes in Interactive Games 1997 to present about Dear Esther, a mood poem game where the player can choose where to go and their choices have an impact on which parts of the story they pick up. Similar to Half-Life, I find it interesting the decision in the Williams article to leave out Half-Life, as the examples he poses for player agency really built off of what Half-Life established, although in a largely different tone. Half-Life was extremely ambitious for its time, not only for its advances in storytelling and player agency, but also for its use of cutting-edge technology of its age, like Cold Source and the Havoc engine. With all of these innovations, how did the workers feel? What were their thoughts about the development, and how did they actually pull this off in the late 90s? Ken Birdwell, a member of the development team for Half-Life, writes about the process Valve utilized to ship the game. Originally planned to ship in the fall of '97, Valve had a game, but that game wasn't much fun. It was mismatched, not a great display of technology, and it didn't flow well. At this point, they started over and reworked every aspect of the game. Valve's publisher, Sierra, did not breathe down their neck to meet a deadline, so they knew they could take their time. Ken calls it a Cabal process, where small groups would focus on an idea or feature for the game, flesh it out, make it fun, turn it into a level, and then the rest of Valve would play it. Described as emotionally draining, the Cabal would have long, grueling meetings where not everyone contributed. People had differing ideas, but in the grand scheme, people were energized by the collaborative process. Compared to what Sisi Jiang writes about for the development of Fallout 76 for Kotaku, It seems the games industry could take a note or two from Valve. Sisi describes the unrecoverable mental and physical exhaustion workers experience trying to meet deadlines to deliver Fallout 76 for ZeniMax. All of that for a game that launched bad anyways. Back in time at Valve, the main Cabal eventually grew into several mini Cabals, each focusing on a feature or aspect to include in the game that would be theirs. Each Cabal worked on something that was theirs, whether it be code, textures, animations, sounds, etc. The result of this is the game that was released in 1998, Half-Life. In conclusion, Half-Life was a groundbreaking game that changed the way we tell stories in video games. By using embedded narrative and player agency, it created an immersive and engaging experience that made the player feel like they were part of the events of the Black Mesa incident. Its influence can still be seen in many modern games today, and it remains a classic that is worth revisiting for anyone interested in the history of video games. I wonder if Valve still uses the Cabal method of developing games and features, and if they do, to what success did they use it for Half-Life Alyx? Thanks for listening.